Hey, welcome to The Explainer. You ever wonder what's really going on behind a smile that seems just a little too perfect? Well, today we're diving into a personality type that's defined by that very question.
I mean, we all know somebody like this, don't we? That person who just never gets mad, who's always pleasant. But have you ever kind of stopped and wondered, is that sweetness really the whole story?
Well, the source material for this explainer suggests that this super calm exterior might actually be hiding a lifetime of suppressed, and get this, often unfelt anger. And it's this exact paradox that defines the personality type we're talking about today.
Okay, so let's dive right into the heart of it. We're going to unpack a personality framework our source calls Staphysagria. Now, that's a mouthful, I know. The term actually comes from homeopathy, but for what we're doing here, we're just focusing on the psychological profile it describes. You know, that deep tension between a really gentle surface and a pretty turbulent inner world.
And this is the really key distinction here. This isn't just about someone, biting their tongue to be polite. We are talking about anger that's been pushed down so deep, the person themselves might not even realize it's there. Like on a conscious level, they often feel nothing at all.
And here's something really interesting. One of the most curious details from the source is the gender distribution. It suggests that people who fit this profile are overwhelmingly male, like outnumbering females by as much as 4-to-1. Isn't that wild? Just a fascinating little detail to keep in your back pocket as we go through this.
So, you gotta be wondering, right? How does someone even get to this point? How does anger get buried that deep? Well, probably not a huge surprise. The source traces the roots of all this right back to childhood. So the core idea here is that this whole pattern gets started when a kid learns that expressing anger just isn't safe. Maybe they're punished for it, maybe they're constantly put down, or maybe they just see a parent who is terrified of conflict. Whatever the reason, the child gets a really powerful message. Anger is dangerous. And so they learn to bury it deep.
But here's where it gets really interesting. This one single wound doesn't just create one type of person. Oh no. The source suggests it can actually lead to 4 very different adult coping strategies. Think of them like 4 different masks, all hiding that exact same tension underneath. Okay, this table right here gives us a perfect roadmap. We've got the sweet, who tries to appease everyone. Then there's the wild, who uses recklessness to escape. The subdued just avoids people altogether. And finally, the smooth, who uses diplomacy as a shield. So let's break down what each of these really looks like. All right, so let's take a look at how these 4 masks actually show up in the real world. We're going to start with the one that probably feels the most familiar to a lot of you. So first up, we have the sweet type. This is your classic people pleaser. For this person, the anger is so completely buried, so deep, that they come across as just the gentlest soul you could possibly imagine. And this quote from our source, wow, it is so telling. She is meek to the point of having no personality of her own. I mean, think about that. It's talking about a fear of conflict that's so huge, their own identity basically just gets erased. They just become a mirror, reflecting whatever they think other people want to see. So yeah, on the outside, you see it right there. Mild, gentle, devoted. They seem like the perfect friend, the perfect partner. But what's going on inside? It's a world of fear. Their number one survival strategy is just to appease, no matter what it costs. I mean, even taking the blame for stuff they absolutely didn't do, all just to keep the peace. Okay, now let's do a complete 180. We're going to look at a profile that takes that exact same inner tension and channels it in a completely opposite and way louder direction. Let's meet the wild type, the thrill seeker. And this quote really gets to the heart of what makes them tick. The daredevil stuff, it's not just for fun. It is a necessary release valve. That massive adrenaline rush they get from doing dangerous things is pretty much the only thing strong enough to blow off all that incredible pressure that's building up inside them. So while on the surface they look like this charming, free spirit, someone who's living life to the absolute fullest, what this profile suggests is that it's actually a desperate escape from their own inner world. I mean, just think about it for a second. A normal, quiet life, to them, that's terrifying. Why? Because without the constant distraction, they'd be forced to finally face all that chaos inside. All right, our third profile takes yet another path, a totally different one.
They don't try to please everybody, and they're not out there seeking thrills. They just kind of disappear. This is the subdued type, who our source calls a fugitive from human connection.
A shadow of a man. Wow, that description is just so powerful, isn't it? And it's not just talking about an introvert. It's painting a picture of someone who has intentionally made themselves small and quiet and so neutral that they basically fade into the wallpaper. And it's all to avoid getting hurt.
Their main game plan is just total avoidance. They keep everybody at arm's length because they're driven by this really deep-seated belief that getting close to people just leads to pain. So underneath that quiet, kind of monotone exterior, there's a whole lot of bitterness and a crippling fear of having to go through the wounds of the past all over again.
And that brings us to our fourth and final profile. And this one might just be the most socially successful of them all. And because of that, maybe the hardest one to spot. Let's meet the smooth type, the chameleon.
So the smooth type has absolutely mastered the art of being social. They're diplomatic, they're witty, they're super charming. But, and this is the big twist, their social skills aren't for genuine connection. Not at all. It's actually a really sophisticated defense mechanism. They use all that humor and that easygoing charm to keep conversations light, and they are masters at steering away from anything that gets too deep or emotional. Okay, so you've got all this pressure building up under these four very different masks. The big question is, what happens when the dam finally breaks? What does it actually look like when that ticking time bomb finally goes off? Well, our source describes this really fascinating four-stage process. It starts with a trigger, usually a painful rejection from someone they care about. And this doesn't just make them angry in the moment. No, it's like it turns a key and unlocks an entire lifetime of suppressed rage. That leads to stage 2, this obsessive resentment. And then stage 3, the explosion, a sudden, shocking outpouring of everything. But here's the most incredible part, what comes after. A genuine, lasting sense of calm, as if all those years of pressure have just, poof, been released.
And that really gets to the core of it all, doesn't it? Whether it's hidden behind sweetness or recklessness or avoidance or charm, this whole framework suggests that suppressed anger always finds a way to shape a life. And it leaves all of us with a really powerful question to think about. What is the true cost of burying our own anger?